What is up, everybody? It is Mike and Nick here with CST, about to give you our full card breakdown for UFC Louisville. If you're here, make sure to hit like, subscribe, leave a comment with your favorite fight of the week or your lock of the week, or just put a W in there for us. We're about to start it off here in a sec. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm all right, man. Fucking, this card's pretty good from a betting perspective. Last week was absolute dog shit for me. I mean, possibly one of the worst weeks I've had in quite some time, to say the least. That mixes both with boxing and UFC, so I'm ready to get that back, and I'm ready to get it back in fucking blood, in Crip in this case. So, how are you feeling today, my man?
I'm good. Yeah, this weekend was rough. Big takeaway from after this weekend. If I'm gonna play a parlay or a lotto, few and far between because I was absolutely smashing my straight bets in boxing, smashing my straight bets in UFC, had a little Champions League parlay that hit, but then I got crazy. I made a ton of money and I started shooting for lottos later in the card for the main event or main card. So this week I'm looking for more straights, and if I'm parlaying, I'm just going one to two or one to two, two to three legs maximum money line. Stop shooting for lottos unless I have a serious feeling. I'm not playing around this week.
Yeah, no, I feel that in a simple sense. I mean, I feel like with a 14 fight card, there's going to be a lot of snipe plays, a lot of opportunities to play straights. There should be some dogs to win. Last week was pretty cut and dry. Not too many dogs won last week. Nico Price winning of all the dogs, really surprised me to say the least. UFC 302 was a shit card. I'm not in the camp that's going to act like it was a good card. Almost all those fights were absolute dog shit. The judging was absolute dog shit. Card was underwhelming to say the bare minimum, and it looks like we have a disaster coming up, possibly with Connor versus Chandler. So I don't know, man. I really think the death of the UFC. Let me reframe this before I get clipped and killed online here. I think ESPN Plus streaming service has slowly started a bad downfall for the UFC, and what I mean by that is they've had to put on too many events. I miss when we used to have, quite frankly, maybe two to three a month at most. I'm sick of these weekly cards, contender series fights halfway up the cards for a bunch of fighters I don't give a shit about that realistically aren't UFC level. I mean, this week we have fucking Jesse Butler fighting. Get the fuck out of here. Anyone tells me UFC level is a fucking on some bullshit. It's been a long day. I'm tired as hell. I'm grumpy as hell. I'm running off of hate and black coffee. So this is going to be a little bit of a feisty one. A lot of piss and vinegar in my voice. So I apologize to everyone because I'm not trying to sound offensive.
I'm a
But with that,
fan. I'm a fan of the card every week. I don't give a fuck. Put the regional level fighters on there. Give me a card every week.
yeah, I'd rather just watch an LFA card, man. And I mean, I enjoy regional level cards. I'd rather watch, something simple as an LFA. I'd rather watch a Ring of the Cage kind of card as comparatively than putting them on a UFC level card and shit pacing for me to sit. I mean, honestly, UFC has the best pacing of anyone. That's bullshit. The pacing is great. I'm bullshitting there. But it's just, unless the finishes are fast. When the finishes are fast, we all have to suffer there, but that's no one's fault in that case. So, with that being said, I've ranted enough. No one wanted to hear me bullshit that long anyway, so let's jump right into the scraps, man. We got first fight of the night here. We have Rayanne Amanda versus Puna Tamar. For me personally, I have my theory play where I'll always take the dog under women's underdog of the first fight of the night. In this case, it is a women's MMA fight from India. I don't respect Indian MMA. I don't respect Indian male MMA. You'll be damned if you think I'm gonna respect women's MMA from India. So with that being said, I'm going to take Rayanne Amanda. We're gonna take anything that's anti-Indian MMA, especially women's Indian MMA. So outside of that, who you got?
It's funny. Co-sign for my Indian boy. He actually, he told me, all right, if you're ever looking at a live bet on tennis, go look for an Indian name, and if it's the favorite, vote for the underdog because they always lose. And I'm going, not to be, hey, I love my Indian people, love my Indian food, but pretty much the same thing with me. After Anshul Jubilee, I'm not trusting him, so I'm going with Amanda, and Amanda's actually pretty decent as well. So if I had to guess, I'm assuming she's going to dominate this fight. I don't know much about the other girl either. I didn't look too much into this fight, but my guess is that Amanda's probably going to finish it.
To be honest with you, I have zero tape on this card either which way, so I'm just kind of bullshitting off the top of my head saying that, but I truly do feel that from the bottom of my heart. I fade all Indian MMA fighters. Until someone has proven me otherwise, nah. I mean, it's a top 12 populated country on planet Earth, but yet they don't have a single good fighter coming out of their country. So moving on to the next one, I actually really like this fight. Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. You have the veteran here who has pretty decent boxing, solid wrestling, not the greatest ground and pound, but he has decent submission control, or position control, I apologize. His submission defense is suspect to say the least when it comes to Cody Stamann, but I don't think Taylor Lapilus is going to be throwing up a lot of submissions in this case. Taylor Lapilus has had a good strength of schedule. He's good on the outside, solid front kicks. He has that French kind of striking style where he'll blade in and out, put a pitter patter of a kick on it, and then I don't necessarily want to say sit down, but he sits down more than most French fighters. But I'm going to go with a tried and true theory in this case. It's not even a theory, it's just really what happens. I'm going to take the American wrestler over the Frenchman. Taylor Lapilus seems to be a little bit light in the ass for my taking. I think Cody Stamann's had a little bit of rough patches in his life, but I think this is a good style matchup. And he's fighting someone that's not really going to give him the grappling upside is someone like an Aljamain Sterling or Ricky Simone or someone of that nature. So I like Cody Stamann as a dog here. I don't really think this fight is necessarily bettable, but if I were to bet, it's only dog or pass for me, especially Taylor Lapilus, damn near 3-1 odds. Even the over is minus 235 right now. How can I trust the under on this one when you have someone like Taylor Lapilus, who's not necessarily a finisher on the feet? He doesn't really throw out the submission grappling, the grappling threat. You have Cody Stamann, who's not necessarily going to ground and pound his way to a finish, and he's not going to possibly choke this guy out unless he gets into a kind of a roid rage triangle situation. So give me Cody Stamann here if we're going to take it either way. How do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I like the underdog here. And if I'm looking to play something as a straight, technically it's a fight parlay, but it's one singular bet. Cody Stamann over 2.5 rounds. Give me that. I'll take Cody Stamann by decision on this one. I think, the wrestling, like you said, is going to be too much. Lapalus is good, though. I wouldn't be surprised if he won, but I'm not playing him at the odds that he's at. So I'm rocking with Stamann as well. 100%.
I'm with that. I mean, the next fight actually has a little bit of decent value too, as well. If you ask me, you have Eduardo Mora versus Denise Gomez. Denise Gomez is coming off a tough loss, as we know, against Angie Hill. But Angie Hill, there's no shame in her. Angie Hill has over 40 fights. She puts on vet lessons against a lot of people that aren't ready for the actual scrap. I think it was just the kind of the way that she did lose, losing more in wrestling and grappling exchanges to Angie Hill is a little bit suspect. But as we saw in her last fight when she got a submission finish, Angie Hill is ramping up her ground game to say the least. She's always learning, and she is a young ass 40, baby. Black don't crack, and that's a fact. So I really fuck with Angie Hill, so I take no shame in that loss here. Eduardo Mora may have a chance at wrestling, and I think beating someone like Montserrat Ruiz, who a lot of people think is a can. Montserrat Ruiz has good grappling. She's a good, solid Mexican wrestler. I could be biased because I also think she's gorgeous, and I love that neck tattoo. So putting into perspective here, I'm actually going to take the dog shot on Denise Gomez, plus 140. Denise Gomez is someone that has shown a lot of promise, and people really like. Denise Gomez put a lot of, Uguara win is really impressive here. She's a fight finisher too as well. She's young and she's learning, but there is a possibility here that Eduardo Mora could lay and pray herself to a finish here in this case, possibly securing 2 to 3 rounds simply by grappling and outpowering her in that sense. So I don't love this fight either which way, but if I were to take it, it's another dog or pass for me, and I really like Denise Gomez if I were to bet it. And if I'm going to play my women's underdog theory play, this is actually where I would take into consideration because I think it has all the recipes that what could happen, and especially Denise Gomez probably goes back to camp, and I think she does a little bit more work on her ground game.
Yeah, it could go one of two ways for me. If I'm looking from a betting perspective on this fight, I am going to take two stabs. I'm going straights only this week, especially for this card. Maybe, like I said, a couple parlays later. But I like Denise Gomez money line. I like the power in the hands. Eduarda Mora she's pretty good and she's big. I'm not even sure if she's going to make weight. I believe she missed in her last fight, and she seems to be having trouble making that 115. So that could prove to be an advantage for her as well because she is going to be pretty top heavy and Denise Gomez is more of a striker. So if I'm going dogs straight on Denise Gomez and also take my own stab unless the odds are under plus 350 I'll probably throw a little bit of something on Eduardo Maro by submission as well. She's pretty good. This is a tough one to call, but I do like Denise Gomez, and I've been a fan of her since the first time I seen her fight. So I'll rock with the underdog to get it done as well.
Yeah, I think either which way, this is a good play here. You're going to get a good line, whoever you like in this case. This is also an opportunity here to possibly play something live. I mean, we've seen in women's MMA, it's going to take a takedown or two before the line really drastically moves. So if Denise Gomez does happen to stuff one single takedown, you're feeling pretty good moving into the next transition and portion of the fight. So especially if she keeps standing after one takedown, you're feeling great, giving a smile, maybe taking a live hammer at that point. So. But I think at plus 140, it's not bad odds at all. So, moving on to the next fight, I actually really, really like this next fight. In terms of betting line, though, I do have to pull it up because I actually don't have this line pulled up yet. You have Daniel Marcos here, and he's taking on John Castaneda. You have John Castaneda, who is coming off of that win over Kang. I'm gonna slaughter his first name, so I'm not even gonna, even try with
Kyung
this
Ho
first name.
Kang.
Yanko Kane, thank you so much. But then you
Kyung. I think it's Kyung Ho Kang.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I didn't even want to pronunciate it. Then you have Daniel Marcos coming off that split decision win over David Grant. A lot of people thought David Grant won that fight. I thought Daniel Marcos' low calf kicks probably took it away for him in the end of the day. That win against Simon Oliveira he had before that was super impressive, and I thought he was going to possibly be the future of the division. I think John Castaneda is a little bit past his time and a little bit past his due, and I think they're doing something of a riser versus a follower in this case. Um, I do like Marcos's low calf kick, his rangy striking, but the issue is he can be low volume at times, and I think that can be an issue against John Castaneda, who will push the pace and will push the pressure of fights. I think if John Castaneda has his way of it, he is going to edge out 2 or 3 rounds purely just by pushing a pace. I'm trying to look up the odds here for this really quickly. Holy shit. This is a pick 'em fight.
Yep.
That's incredible. This is a pick 'em fight. That is incredible. I love that so much then in that case.
Hmm.
So in my betting lean, I am going to lean Daniel Marcos. I think they're going to take the guy that I believe is a riser, is going to come off a lackluster performance, but a lackluster performance against a good vet. David Grant's fucking good, man, has some good wins, and he goes a lot of split decisions against good fighters. I mean, he has a close decision loss against Chito Vera early in his career, a close decision loss against Adrian Yanez as well. So I'm a fan of David Grant, and I think going to split decision and taking a dub against him is pretty impressive at all points. I really like that Solomon Oliveira win coming up from Daniel Marcos. Calf kicks his way, anti-wrestles his way to this win here. John Castaneda probably can't hold him against the cage. So as long as he controls the pressure, I love it. Pick 'em odds for Daniel Marcos here.
Yeah, me too. I like Daniel. Daniel Marcos is like you said, he's a bit tentative sometimes. He's a bit hesitant, but at the same time, he's a sniper. And I don't know if John Castaneda is going to be able to implement his game plan. For me, this could be a live bet scenario for Castaneda if he starts to realize wrestling and grappling success. And then maybe I'll throw a little bit on John Castaneda live. But for the line being as close as it is, I'm taking the up and comer. Even though I love Castaneda, man, I love Castaneda. Walks out to 50 Cent, has the mustache. I'm a big fan of Castaneda here, so I'm pulling for him personally. But from a betting standpoint, Marcos is a lot of value in his odds.
I forgot that he had that no contest against AQ. That
The low blow.
that blew me. He was
Yeah.
chipping his way to an easy win there. You
Yeah, he
know,
was teasing him.
and that's surprising that this line is so close in that case. I think we may have gotten lucky due to that low blow, to be honest with you. Um, Adriana Lee versus Montana De La Rosa. Just purely based off, I don't have any future tape from this, unfortunately. So I don't want to mislead anybody here. But if I'm leaning any which way, I think Andrea Lee has the better strength of schedule. She loses to the better fighters. In this case, I would just take Andrea Lee, especially at minus 148 odds. But I would like to pass the mic to you in this case, Mike, because I think you'll probably have a better read than I would.
Dude, it's the same thing. I'm plain and simple. Their record, what Andrea Lee is 13-9, and Montana De La Rosa is 12-9. The records don't look great, but if you look at Andrea Lee's strength of schedule, her last four losses, dogs. She's losing to absolute dogs. And personally, she's due. She's due, man. And Montana De La Rosa, she doesn't move the meter for me at all. I do like, she's decent jujitsu, decent wrestling. But at the end of the day, Andrea Lee is tough as nails, and she's always down to fight. I think she's going to take a decision, maybe 30-27, even 29-28. I don't know. For me, I'm like super confident in Andrea Lee this week. and her odds are decent as well. I think she's somewhere around minus 150. So low key, people say don't bet women's MMA, but honestly, I see Andrea Lee as a potential parlay piece for this weekend.
Yeah, looking at both their records, I'm surprised they both actually have good losses. They both have losses of Viviane or Arujo. I think the Macy Barber loss is a little bit different though, because I actually think you could have scored that fight for Adriana Lee, which I actually did score for Adriana Lee. Pretty clear cut loss here for Macy or Montana De La Rosa versus Macy Barber. I take nothing away from Montana De La Rosa losing to Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez would be a champion at this point if it wasn't for the injury and the cancer setback. So. Um, yeah,
And
but I
the
agree with you. I
Natalie
think I
Silva.
think Adriana I think Adriana Lee is also more athletic though. That's one thing too as well. She's just slightly more naturally athletic, so I think she gets that done, which is a big underrated portion when it comes to women's MMA too.
Yeah, she's a dog.
The next fight I don't think is bettable unless you take a dog, and you can't take a dog here. It's Jesse Butler versus Brad Katona. I mean, Brad Katona, as annoying as he is, and as much as I hated listening to him talk on The Ultimate Fighter, man, he is a good fighter, man. He has the good 3 round cardio. He made some garbage decisions against Garrett Armfield. He got out wrestled as hell against Garrett Armfield. That was a bad showing, but I don't think Garrett Armfield's a bad fighter, man. I mean, really, his only loss is a 145 David Onama, and David Onama is a fucking killer, man. So I take nothing away from that whatsoever, especially taking that fight on short notice the way he did and taking the fight as close as he did. That's talking about Garrett Armfield. Let me get back to Brad Katona then in this case. Brad Katona has good pace, good boxing, good pressure, good presence, good fight IQ. I think he's coming off a bad showing to where I think he'll have a better showing here in this case. I don't think he knows that he can afford to lose again, because if he loses again, he has a boring style that the UFC is not going to want to keep around. They're going to cut his ass. They're giving him a gimme here with Jesse Butler, who's chinny, doesn't have any grappling upside for him. I think it's a pretty clear cut win for Brad Katona. The only way you can take it is inside the distance, but then you're probably going to be screaming at your TV when he's lackluster performancing for 3 fucking rounds. So when those lines eventually do drop, I would take Brad Katona inside the distance. It'll probably be somewhere around minus 135. And at that point, it's probably not even worth taking at that moment, but that would be my gambling advice in this case. Brad Katona at minus 625 is untouchable, man. Unfucking touchable, even though I think Jesse Butler loses this fight 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, Jesse Butler made his debut on short notice against Jim Miller at 155. He's now fighting 20 pounds under that.
Can we talk about how fucking gangster that knockout was?
Yeah, of
Oh
course. I
my.
mean, that was expected, though. I mean, it was like that was
But no,
like,
no, 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 no. It may have been expected. The style in which it happened was not. I don't care who the fuck you were. No one on earth said, "Yo, Jim Miller's gonna have a top 7 knockout of the year, right?" What?
yeah, he crushed him. But it's concerning that Butler was, not super tall for the lightweight division, but he's a decent sized guy. Now he's a natural 145er. He's fighting at 135 now. If Brad Katana has a nice boxing game, and I think there's a chance that Brad Katana catches him on the feet and knocks him out. I know he's a decisionator. I'm not telling anybody to bet on the knockout, but if we see Brad Katona by knockout at plus 300, plus 400, I'll throw something on that. Other than that, I'm not betting on this fight at all. He's not a parlay piece. I'm not throwing down. I'm not adding a minus 625 to a parlay. Plain and simple. But Brad
Yeah,
Katana is going to dominate 100%.
yeah. I don't think it's necessarily giving people bad betting advice though. If you do say take Brad Katona by finish, I don't think that's Jesse Butler is chinny as hell. Like he's chinny as hell. He doesn't have any grappling upside for him. Brad Katona could, quite frankly, ground and pound his way to a position too. Brad Katona's strong as shit.
He might catch him on the feet. I'm telling you, it is not
I
out of the question that he catches him
oh,
on
I
the
believe
feet.
that. I'm just kind of like ticking off all the boxes why I'm saying I think Brad Katona by finish actually isn't a bad bet.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's one of those ones that's kind of choppy in the air, and I wouldn't put it in a parlay. I wouldn't put that in a parlay. That'd be a straight bet by itself. So
Mhm.
I just want to have that one sweat and one sweat only because your heart's possibly going to be beating through it. He could make it look easy too. We just never know which way that's going to work out. So, um, uh, by the way, you don't do you have the odds in front of you or no?
No, my laptop's still not working, so I'm up here blind right now. But if I remember, he was around minus 600, minus 620.
Oh no, I was just curious. My apologies. So we have Charles Radke versus Carlos Pratas next, and It sucks, man, because Carlos Prates is coming off a killer knockout against Trevin Giles. He is on a huge win streak. He has a win against Charles Oliveira. Not the Charles Oliveira, but a Charles Oliveira, which I thought was pretty hilarious upon research here. And then you have Charles Radke here, who is coming off a win against Gilbert Urbina. You know, he takes a lot of grappling matches on his offside, which I really appreciate for all MMA fighters. But I think this is another case of Prates where he's had a lot of learning curves and learning experiences early in his career. He has straight out Muay Thai, keeps his ass off the cage here. When they drop the decision line, I think Prates by knockout here is going to be a beautiful prop, and I'm really hoping that we get it somewhere at 2-1 odds. Because Prates here at minus 238 is it's good for a parlay piece, a two-legger parlay piece, in my personal opinion, because I feel pretty confident in this play. Radke does have some slick boxing here, and he has a good slick. It kind of reminded me of Nick Ball this weekend, actually. It's kind of a slip of the left, but it throws the right uppercut, and I really appreciate that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did catch Prates with something interesting and sneaky like that, but I like Prates here, and I think when the lines for knockout drop, I like him by a knockout. So how are you feeling?
Chuck Buffalo by sub. I'm
You know,
calling it.
people love Chuck Buffalo. I'm really learning that. I think he's so down for a war. I think it's gonna run him into something.
I'm not super impressed by Charles Radke's stand up at all, but at the same time, he's great jujitsu. He has good wrestling. He's tenacious. Even if he gets tired, he's gonna still fight. He's gonna still push forward. He doesn't when he gets tired, he doesn't lose that competitive spirit. So even if he
Yeah, he has a
gasses
dog.
himself trying to take down Prates is defending well, getting back up. Charlie Radke's not going to stop, and I do see him getting a submission here. If I'm looking on FanDuel later in the week, it might be a straight. This is my little straight lottos. Chuck Buffalo submission rounds 2 or 3. That could be pretty juicy. I just feel like Protez is going to be a little bit out of water here in terms of the grappling. But like you do your little live plays, your fire live plays. If I see Protez like completely stuffing the wrestling and getting back up anytime he's taken down with ease, and it goes into the next round, even if it looks like Charles Radke is dominating takedown after takedown, but Protez is finding his way back up. That might be a live play for Protez, especially once the odds flip. It'll be a lot more valuable.
It's also important too, as well, when it comes to live plays. I like to turn off the sound, so I'm not getting commentary bias, and I really like to read the fighter's body language. How deep are they breathing? Where are their hands at? Things of that nature. Like if their hands are on their hips and they're taking crazy deep breaths, the other guy looks calm, cool, and collected, and he's only down a round after getting taken down multiple times. That's how I took Cesar Almeida versus Budka, is because Budka looked like he was breathing on death's door, and the fact that Cesar Almeida was plus 250 was mind-boggling to me, even though he got taken down 7 times. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis was another great play in that scenario where it seemed like both of them going back to the school. It just seemed like Dustin had a bit more juice for him. So, speaking of Benoit Saint Denis, in this case here, you have Thiago Moises actually fighting versus Ludovic Klein. Do you want to talk about this fight first, or you want me to go?
Dude, I've always been high on Thiago Moises. I'm a big fan of Thiago Moises, and he's still young, dude. He looks like I mean, he is a grown ass man, but like when you see him, it's like, oh, he's probably 34. Nah, this dude's like 28 years
Oh,
old.
oh,
Ludovic Klein is also young though, and Ludovic Klein is a beast, man. I've been pretty high on him the majority of his career as well. People were saying Bahamondes was gonna destroy him. I already got that dog play. He was like plus 190 against Ignacio. So I'm not taking anything away from Ludovic Klein. This one is a tough one for me to pick. I believe Thiago Moises is the underdog, and I like taking a straight dog play on this one. I feel like Thiago Moises will be able to implement his game plan. His striking isn't that bad. Ludovic Klein probably has the edge in striking, but Thiago Moises is no fish out of water. And if he can, use his striking to close the gap, and Ludovic Klein is big and strong though, man. So we'll see what Thiago Moises does when he gets there. But I like Thiago Moises as a dog this week. I don't want to say he's gonna finish the fight, but I think he might be able to implement his game plan and not allow Ludovic to get his own rhythm going.
yeah. So Thiago Moises is a plus 105 as of right now, and I'm only looking on
Damn.
DraftKings for the. What happened?
I thought it would be juicier than that. Plus 105. I felt like the last time I seen it, it was, unless I'm tripping, but
Well, the line can be moving fast because there's a few different ways kind of you have to look at this fight, in my personal opinion. I think this fight is pretty similar to Mateus Rebecki versus Diego Ferreira a few weeks ago, actually. I think we're going to see Ludovic Klein have an extremely strong push in the first round, and I think we will be able to get Thiago Moises out of there at a better odds. But there's a few things to take into consideration here. Ludovic Klein, even though the Landwehr fight and the Trizano fight, Mike Trizano out wrestling you is an issue, and I don't even care if it's at 145 and you're a weight drained 145er. That's a question mark to me. AJ Cunningham and Ignacio Baja Mendez aren't wins that I rate overly high, even though Baja Mendez showed after his last win that he's a lot better than I think people may give him credit for. Comparatively to Thiago Moises, who's losing to guys like Joel Alvarez, who is a fight finisher up until the point that he fought Arman Tsarukyan, Islam fucking Makhachev, and Benoit Saint fucking Denis, who's an absolute killer in Killer's Row. Thiago Moises doesn't lose to guys that aren't, realistically top 10, top 15 to any given day caliber guys. And Ludovic Klein, he may be solid, he marches you forward, and his cardio looks far better at 155, I agree, but I think how much he's fallen in love with lifting weights, I think all the juice that he's on is going to force him to probably be, what's up, Zinard? I see you, my boy. Oh, and another Zen, oh my God, we may need a new sponsor, what?
You
Speaking
already
of which, be
know.
on the lookout for something next week, y'all. But with that being said, I think Thiago Moises drags him into deep water, and I think he subs him second, third round. So when FanDuel does drop those combination round prop subs, I think submission rounds 2 or 3 by Thiago Moises is going to be something I'm going to play. I think Thiago Moises drowns this guy. I feel very confident in Thiago Moises outright this week. I feel extremely confident in him by finish. I think Ludovic Klein is going to fall in love with that physique he has. And granted, I do respect him as a fighter. I don't think he's fought in anyone of the caliber of Thiago Moises. And again, getting finished late rounds on the ground by late Landwehr. I respect Nate Landwehr. But even at 145, I think Thiago Moises is world above him in terms of grappling prowess, in terms of submission finishing. And he finishes those guys that aren't of world class caliber. So I like Thiago Moises here. I like Thiago Moises by finish here. And I really like him by submissions, round 2 or 3 props when it drops on FanDuel. So
I'm happy we're on the same page with that one. I feel like a lot of people are on Klein, and nothing against Klein. Like, if Klein wins, whatever. I'm a Moises fan, and I also logically think that he's the better option betting wise in this fight. So I'm happy we're on the same page with that one.
me too, man. I wanted to hear your call on it first. That's why I'm glad that you went first. This next fight to me is just kind of funny because I think it's Chinny versus Chinny. It's Piliano Soriano here, low volume Piliano Soriano, Mr. Puna himself here. And then you got him versus Miguel Baeza, who Miguel Baeza at one point I thought was truly going to be the truth at the 170 division, but then his chin turned to glass out of nowhere. Long rangy striker. Shout out to my boy TJ because he always tells me a funny story about because he used to train under Coach Pablo Alonso at Warrior Camp in Seattle, and Pablo Alonso told him he would be his next Miguel Baeza, and how me and him always laugh about that now because we're always like, God, thank God you're not as chinny as him. So if you were going purely based skill for skill here, because I think I'm trying to get better at not basing fights necessarily on fighters who are chinny and not unless they're fighting a straight up power puncher. You have Puna here who does throw bombs, but he doesn't throw necessarily set up his technique. A lot of overhands, almost throws zero leg kicks and zero body punches. It's almost literally all overhands and hooks for him. As compared to Miguel Baeza, who can move, who can stick behind his jab, who throws a nice set of kicks and really good setup of his punches. If you're going skill for skill here, I don't think this fight's close. I would take Miguel Baeza in a second. The issue is I don't think you can trust either fighter due to their chin. So the fight not to go the distance to me is a fight that I think is going to be a prop that everyone's going to be taking. Correct? I mean, the round props are over is 1.5. I love the over 1.5 here, even though I just said Chinny versus Chinny. I think they're both going to be tentative of each other's power and each other's striking. I think them both naturally coming off of the multitude of knockout losses that they have come off is going to make them naturally tentative. They're going to have a round of feeling out process, which we've seen my Miguel Baeza get caught in that feeling out process. Puna, who's someone that's not going to set up anything to catch him in that first round. I think the over 1.5 here is an incredible play at minus 105. And if you like Puna here, it's a plus 160 underdog. I don't like either which fighter in the money line because I don't think you can trust them, but the over 1.5 is something I feel really good about. So.
I'm gonna be taking Punahele Soriano, dude. He's not big at middleweight, but he's down at 170 now. You know, you're
How
right
does
in
that
that.
affect his chin? That's again, I can't get
Dude,
I just
dude, his
I
chin is
just make
not
it a
that bad. I mean, he got dropped by
fight.
bullets by.
Is it
What was
just
that?
because I can't get over that last knockout? That last knockout just felt like it made his chin look really bad.
Well, he got dropped by Stoltzfus, but Stoltzfus, no, I'm not gonna lie, Stoltzfus looked damn good in that fight, man. He was mixing up the wrestling, the striking. He looked. I'm not gonna. It is what it is. Stoltzfus
We're
isn't the
talking about
greatest
fucking
fighter.
Dustin Stolfoots right here, y'all.
I
Dustin
mean,
fucking Stolfoots.
hey, bro, he looked good in that fight, and I'm not saying he's a world beater or anything, but look at Punahele Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov was beating the shit out of Punahele Soriano, and he tried to fight until his body got
No
shut
gas
down.
tank ass Roman Kopylov.
Yeah,
Fuck.
but shit, dude, Roman was beating his ass, and he was still there to fight. I mean, obviously, he was severely, you know, impacted
Outgunned.
by the strikes, and he ended up falling. I think it was due to body shots, but homeboy he was eating for a little while, and I don't think Miguel Baeza, he's gonna probably be a quicker look than some of the guys that Punahele has seen at middleweight, but he's also going to be packing less of a punch. And I'm just going to go with the toughness factor in Punahele Soriano. Puna by knockout, Puna straight, small sprinkle on both. This fight is certainly not a bank breaker, though. I'm telling you now, I'm not. I'll put maybe $20 on Puna, maybe $20 on his knockout, and that's about it. I'm moving on from this one, but it's going to be fun while it lasts, unless they're both super tentative. I bet you there's a good possibility Puna does not come out tentative. I bet you he's going to come out guns blazing against a smaller guy because he's going to think he'll be able to just knock him out. So the underplay probably is a good shot here.
I mean, so we're on the opposite spectrum here because I think in terms of if it's just a straight up fight, I think Miguel beats his ass and you like the under and I like the over. So we're just on the opposite spectrum of this fight, which is completely fine.
Oh,
Because
maybe not under 1.5 though. Like if under
yeah, yeah, that's
2.5
that's why
is
I was saying I think the fight not to go the distance is going to be good odds, but
yeah.
the over 1.5 is like something good enough to take by itself. Because I can
Yeah.
absolutely see a round three, even a late round two finish, no doubt about it. It would be one of those things where it would be a fun little sweat to put a play on both, which I personally
Right.
probably will. A little
Right.
50-50, like a literally a 50-50 bet. Put 50 on the over 1.5 and a 50 for it not to go the distance because now you guarantee yourself that it's going to have, not guarantee yourself because if the fight goes the distance, you're just laughing. But if the fight doesn't go the distance and you're getting that at plus dog odds, or you'll be getting it at big minus odds actually now that I'm thinking about it, minus
Yeah,
105.
that'll be like
That wouldn't
50
be
to
great.
win, $23.
That literally was just a blonde moment of me. But moving on, let's get to our next fight because this one, the odds make no fucking sense to me. Julian Marquez versus Zach Reese. Zach Reese is a plus 115 underdog to Julian Marquez minus 135 favorite. Julian Marquez last win was against Sam fucking Karate Combat Champion Alvi, and he has losses against, what the fuck? Fuck, god damn it, bro. I'm sick of everyone hyping up these any fucking promotion that has Sam Alvey as your fucking champion can suck my dick. Fuck you. Fuck
Damn,
that.
Ollie's man.
Shout out to Sam Alley, Smiling Sam. This man gets knocked out by RoboCop, which I love RoboCop. I think RoboCop's a hell of a fighter. But losing to Alessio De Chirico by finish is suspect to say the least. Andre Barrios, who's, a battery and a powery bar. But Zach Reese was someone that punches lights out, has decent submission grappling, and I think got caught up in a really awkward slam his last fight. I mean, losing to Cody Brundage is a hard feat to get over, to say the least. But
Cody Brundage is him too.
you just love him because how much money he's made you. Let's not act like he's him, okay?
I love him.
I mean, hey, shit, he gave Bo his toughest fight to date, so I guess he is him.
Title run
Um,
incoming.
so I'm just gonna jump to the point here. I think Zach Reese finishes him within under a round. I think Zach Reese money line is amazing. I think Zach Reese by finish is going to be extra credible. Give me all the Zach Reese here. It's a get right spot for him. They're washing their hands of Julian Marquez. He blew a shot with Miley Cyrus. He's going to
Dude.
blow a shot here.
Unbelievable. That shit, me and my boys still bring that shit up. Like, she's just like, put an M in your chest hair, and he just fumbled the bag. That's one of the craziest bag fumbles of all time. I would say bet on the fraud check this week, but hearing that Zach Reese is the underdog,
He's already been. That's the best thing. There is no fraud check. He's been beat by fucking Cody Brundage. You've been beat by Cody Brundage. There's zero fraud check,
yeah.
brother. You have zero pressure now.
Zach
Zero
Reese
fucking
redemption arc.
pressure. Fucking Zach Reese round one is a prop I love this week. Zach Reese is gonna fucking smoke Julian Marquez. I'm telling you, it's a get right spot for him. Marquez sucks. Marquez fucking sucks. Like I couldn't believe the tape I was watching. I
I
was like,
usually don't
holy
talk
sh
shit about fighters, but that Miley Cyrus shit, bro. Julia Marquez, you done.
you're done. You're dead to us. And Zach Reese is gonna fucking nail in the coffin on this bitch. So, all right, we'll move on to the next one here for you. Let's see here. Speaking of the boy a few fights ago, speaking of Dustin Stolfus, the German destroyer, the fucking man himself, Dustin fucking Stolfus versus Bruno Ferreira. What an odd knockout Bruno Ferreira had, by the way, against Nasser
Phil
T.
Hans?
No, no, no. What's that? Wait a minute.
Well, his
What?
last fight was against Phil Haas.
No, no, no. I was talking about when he got knocked out by Nasruddin.
No,
That
it was
knock,
by Nursultan Ruziboyev.
Nursultan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ruzaboyev.
He got
So
slumped, bro.
it was just so strange. I've
He
rewatched
just,
it in
I
so
think
many different angles, and to this day, I'm like, what hit him exactly?
the
What?
straight dude, he didn't see it coming. That's the ones that knock you.
Yeah, it was just insane, man. But I think Bruno Fajeda's, this is pretty easy money here at minus 265. But how good Stolfus did look in his last fight and how he was building up. Here's the thing is that's so crazy though about Stolfus, man. This is what you have to play. He gets knocked out after a round and a half. It is crazy. He will last 7.5 minutes almost with everybody, minus a boost, and then slowly fumble downhill and somehow lose the buck after 7.5. So the best way to play this is when DraftKings drop these parlay odds is to play Bruno Ferreira over a round. When you can do a same game parlay, take Bruno Ferreira and take him over 3.5 minutes. It's probably going to drop his odds to somewhere minus 145, minus 135 range. And that way you can get Bruno Ferreira good rounds. I think Dustin Stolfus is going to keep him off, especially Bruno Ferreira, who's not necessarily big for the weight class whatsoever. And I don't think he's necessarily overly technical, but he gains a lot of traction and he covers a lot of ground when he throws those sweeping hooks. Very interesting style that Bruno Ferreira has on his ass. So I
Yeah.
like Bruno Ferreira when the same game parlay drops at minus, I'm assuming it's going to be 135, 145 over 3.5 minutes. I think that will feel pretty safe. Shouldn't be clinching your butthole too hard on that one. So
Yeah, it is crazy. Like when Bruno fought RoboCop, like me and my boys were like joking because you see him up against the cage and he's throwing these hooks and like a hook, and they're like nowhere close to Gregory Rodriguez, and we're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then immediately after four big whiffs, he just sleeps him.
bro,
Um,
he covers. It's weird. He covers ground with these whooping hooks. I
he
wanted to read this
yeah,
really quick about Dustin.
hypnotizes.
I wanted to read this really quickly about Dustin Stolfus because this really, I thought this was kind of crazy. So, minus the Abus Magomedov, here's his losses at the time of his losses 259 of round three, 154 of round three, a unanimous decision against Dawkins here. So, these losses I just found really interesting that he stays tough as hell for the first round or so, and then he loses in the later times. Abus, who's someone that's a first round finisher, is no shame there. Granted, Bruno is a complete first round finisher. That's why I said over 3.5 minutes, maybe comparatively to 4.5. But, sorry for cutting you off there. I just thought that was super interesting about Stolfus. He's just tough as hell, but I've always imagined him in my head being more chinny than he was. So,
Yeah, you'd think Bruno's gonna win this fight, most likely by finish. Um, who knows? I mean, see, the Deej enemy is always like, oh, maybe Stoltzfus chin will hold up a little bit. Bruno will drop him and then submit him. Especially if I see that like, oh, knockout minus 120, submission plus 600. Shoot, he
wait,
might
so,
carve seven.
so this is room for discussion then in this case here. If if you say Bruno most likely by finish, I think that's the only way you can take Bruno here. I think it's by decision. I think Stolfus takes it. I think Stolfus could point his way to a decision here.
I would
If
love
you
it.
if it were to go to the judges, you could take Stolfus by decision. I think Bruno by finish is the only way to take Bruno in this case, quite frankly.
Yeah,
Or
he
the
should
Bruno
still.
over a few minutes of some sort. So I don't know, man. I think there's a few. This is one of those unbettable fights to me almost. Now that the more we're talking about it, the more I don't want to bet it. The more volatile it seems. Maybe enjoy it or possibly take a live play on it.
I know I'm a fool. I'm probably gonna bet on Stoltzfus, so we'll see what happens.
I don't necessarily think you're a fool for that. I just think Stolfus isn't great. I think he's chinny as hell. He doesn't have great wins, but I mean, if you respect Puna, because it sounds like you respect Puna here, I feel like this is an oddly similar matchup to that. I just think Bruno hits way harder, like
Yeah, way better.
a million times harder, and recovers traction a little bit closer. But it's sweeping hooks versus sweeping hooks, realistically. So, um, moving on to the next fight here, which I love this fight for a few reasons because I had this fight in a parlay a while ago and it got voided out and the parlay still hit, but I think it would have hit either way. Ricky Tercios versus Raul Rosas Jr.'s. Listen, I watched all of Ricky Tercios' Ultimate Fighter season here. I watched this fight against Kevin Natividad. I watched this fight against Zahabi, I believe it was. I don't have it in front of me, so my brain's kind of blocking.
Gaming's a hobby.
Raul Rosas, yes, he does gas out, but he gasses out against dogs. Ricky Tercios is not a dog. He's tough, yes, but he's not a dog. He doesn't have the weight man strength behind his ass. He does scramble, but he loses positions easily and he gives up his back when he gets up. Ricky Tercios isn't going to outstrike Raul Rosas, and at least not for the first 7.5 minutes. Raul Rosas is in the gym with a bunch of killers, trains out at 10th Planet Las Vegas and the Extreme Couture team. See him train with Patchy Mix and Muriel Dwashwili, which is always going to give me a little bit more exception in the way you're grappling and the way your cardio is coming along. Give me Raul Rosas here at minus 250 odds. It's not horrible. I think Raul Rosas by submission or Raul Rosas by finish here will be something that's in play. Ricky Tercios is tough, but I think he gets finished here. I think it's a get right spot for Raul Rosas. I don't think Ricky Tercios has beaten anyone of note or anyone that's good. And Ricky Tercios, what's he gonna do? Fucking Hayadouken and fucking scream is halfway across the cage. It's not going to matter when you're getting choked unconscious, brother. So,
Yeah, you're saying Raul Rosas was kicking your ass, bro. That's funny
bro,
as
it's these
shit.
names. These names are killing me.
Yeah, that's funny. But low key though, I mean, I think Raul Rosas is probably the lock of the card. But yo, I'm telling you, when
Legit, like I think you. I don't like using that term, but legit, I fucking couldn't agree with you more.
yeah, when the props drop though, because this could be sneaky. Because Ricky Tercios is tough. He's pretty. His jujitsu is pretty solid. I can see a realm where Raul Rosas just controls and surges for submissions, doesn't get them, and wins by decision. So I'm thinking the books are probably going to be on Rosas by finish. So if for some reason, because you see these ones where it's like, oh, he's only minus 250, but the sub is minus 180, but then you see the decision if it's juiced up at like plus 4 or 500, that's something that I'll probably just play a light sprinkle on as well.
Yeah, and I think that would be well worth that'd be a worth a play either which way. I mean, he's minus 230 right now, which is crazy to me, which is fucking crazy because Ricky Tercios is. I'm not trying to, again, running off black coffee and hate. Ricky Tercios is just not the most skilled UFC fighter. I don't think he's a high level UFC caliber fighter. I don't necessarily think he's a UFC caliber fighter whatsoever. So, moving on to a fight that's also lined the same exact way at minus 230 to minus plus 190. Dominic Reyes versus Justin Jacoby. Um, I
Let's go.
think we're going to see Jacoby finish Dominic Reyes here. Justin Jacoby has good in and out kickboxing. He may not be known as for his power per se, but he does put on a lot of volume, and he especially puts on volume in the later rounds. I'm at a point where you truly can't trust Dominic Reyes' chin. Coming off that loss against Ryan Spann was ugly. It was bad. His loss against Jerry Prohaska was ugly. It was bad. The way he's losing these fights are bad. Uh, I just want to see Dominic Reyes retire personally. I want to remember him for the guy that should have beaten John Jones 3-2. I want to remember him for the athletic football player. He's one of the only really good football players to come into MMA, I think, because I think football is one of the worst bases for MMA, quite frankly. Um, yeah, I like Justin Jacoby by finish here, late finish. It's getting late for us, so I'm just starting to ramp through my picks, as you could tell. But yeah, Justin Jacoby by finish here, especially rounds 2 or 3 knockout. My favorite parlay probably of the week is going to be in terms of a submission prop is going to be Thiago Moises submissions round 2 or 3 and Justin Kobe knockout round 2 or 3 here. So
We're about to see levels, bro. And this is going to get clipped. And we're going to play it on CST because Dominic Reyes is going to show levels, man. Dustin Jacoby just isn't that level. Dominic Reyes is going to mix the martial arts. He's going to mix in his wrestling. He's honestly, I think
His
in
wrestling,
in terms of striking,
his
he's
wrestling.
dude, he's gonna. I'm telling you, just watch. He's gonna get some takedowns. He's gonna start piecing Jacoby on the feet. Jacoby's already been fighting tentative. He's been fighting way too hesitant, like against Alonzo Menafield and Kennedy and Nzechukwu. He looked horrible, bro. And I tell you, I don't care. Dominic Reyes is never gonna get caught seen looking that bad. He might get slept, but he's not ever going to look that low level. And the way that Dustin Jacoby's looked in his last couple fights, I don't care how glass Dominic Reyes is. I don't even think Jacoby's going to catch him. I mean, there's a chance, yeah. Dominic Reyes could go to sleep, but you got me fucked up thinking I'm about to take Dustin Jacoby over Dominic Reyes. Ain't no shot. 2-1 underdog. I'm throwing bread on that one. We'll see what happens.
That's fair. I mean, I respect your opinion always, but you're fucking wrong here. I
We'll
just,
see.
yeah, we will, but I don't know, man. I mean, I just couldn't. I think it's time for Dominic Reyes to retire, man. And if you do get finished by Justin Jacoby, then you fucking know it's time to retire, and you know that as well as I do.
They gave
Because
him the most winnable fight for like he's on a skid. He needs a win. They gave him an extremely winnable fight. Like look at and not to do MMA math.
they're both technically on skids. I mean,
Yeah,
Jacoby's 1-3 in his last three. Granted, I think he should have beat Khalil Roundtree. And you got me fucked up. If you go to a close fight with Khalil Roundtree, imagine Dominic Reyes versus Khalil Roundtree. I know MMA math doesn't work, but it'd be a fucking murder scene. They'd be calling the fucking cops. Polizia, polizia. It'd be a fucking rap, brother.
depends what Khalil shows up. Khalil has some pretty terrible losses.
Yeah, but if the after his fights, since Jacoby showed up, it'd be a fucking murder, brother. It'd be
But if
Michael Myers and that motherfucker.
if the Khalil who fought Jacoby showed up, shit, Dominic Reyes probably dust him.
That's a good point. That's why, good sir, that is why MMA math does not work
But Dominic
whatsoever.
Reyes is glass though, so I know it'll be cool if I can get that little clip of me being like, "Yo, Dominic Reyes is gonna fuck him up." But also, if you're still watching, be careful if you're betting on glass bones and paper skin Dominic Reyes because
You
he
just
could
want the
definitely get
clip because you
slumped.
want to be right in this case. You're like, look it, I was right.
I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm putting my money on it." So shit, I'm putting
That's
my
no,
money on
that's
the
a good point.
Mountaies.
And honestly, this is a fight that I don't think I'm gonna put a lot of money on. So, regardless, if you're putting money on it, then I hope it goes well for you because I never want the boy to lose money ever. Fuck that. So let's go to our main event here, which is so I want to talk about this before I preface this. I know anyone that's a longtime viewer or anyone that knows me knows well how much I love Jared Cannonier. Born and raised in Arizona. Jared Cannonier fights out of the lab. Seeing his it's funny, I want to say growth, but really regression from heavyweight to middleweight has been incredible. He was like a turtle, man. Under that shell was just the most ripped motherfucker you've ever seen ever. So, Jerry Cannonier is someone that has overachieved, especially in the middleweight division, for a long time, in my personal opinion. He only loses to the best fighters, Israel Adesanya and the Robert Whitakers of the world. So it's going to be tough for me to say, but I am going to take Imavov in this fight. And the reason I think Imavov does win is due to the movement. I think Imavov's in and out movements. I don't want to call him the same as Robert Whitaker, but someone that Jerry Cannonier can't plant his feet, get stationary, target the leg kick, target the uppercuts and the shoveling hooks, the tight and clinch boxing and things of that nature that Jared Cannonier loves. It's going to be hard for him to get off. And as long as Imavov does have the cardio to go 5 rounds, which I think we have seen his cardio improve drastically over his last few fights, I think that Jared Cannonier is going to have an issue tracking him. And he's not known for his cage cutting. He's not great at cage cutting per se. And Jared Cannonier doesn't have the best wrestling entries. So I think it kind of leads up to a bad style matchup to where I think Imavov can outright just outpoint himself to 3-2 here. If they were to stand and bank here, I would bank on Jared Cannonier's power to get it done because I don't think Imavov has the chin of a Marvin Vettori and I don't think he has the defensive prowess of a Sean Strickland per se. I would love to see Cannonier get a win here, man. If he gets a win here, you have to give him the title shot against Duplessis, in my personal opinion, with wins against Vettori, the way he slaughtered Vettori, wins against Sean Strickland, and then now against Imavov, which would be an incredible one. I'm not going to bet this fight for my heart reasons. If I had to bet this fight, unfortunately, I would take Imavov. I would take Imavov by decision because I don't think he is going to finish Jared Cannonier, who's tough as shit. One thing is I think all the surgeries that Jared Cannonier has gone through too has been an issue. I mean, he's gone through a torn pectoral, torn triceps, and, plenty of different injuries here too as well. And one thing I've always been curious to is how many high level people his size are he training with out of the MMA lab because I'm always curious about the high level. The lab has a crazy good room in it, but it's really a great bantamweight room, a great 145 room, smaller weight classes and things of that nature. So it always makes me curious. One thing I'm looking at is the odds. Jerry, it's almost a pick 'em fight. Jerry Cannonier is a plus 102. Imavov is a minus 122. I don't think it's a 50-50 fight, unfortunately. I think it's more of a 60-40 fight. And again, I leave it with Imavov. But if my heart had to go any which way, I would take Cannonier. If my brain had to go any which way, I would take Nasruddin. So, yeah, that's how I take it. How do you thinking?
Yeah, Cannonier's getting older. His physique. I mean, he's in great shape. But like you said, the injuries that he's dealt with in the past, Imavov is on his way up, and I think Jared Cannonier might be on the decline. At least here soon. Not taking anything away from Jared Cannonier, but they're giving him a tough fight, man. Imavov is good, and not. I mean, Chris Curtis isn't on the same level as Jared Cannonier, but he's also damn near impossible to take down. So going into the fight with Chris Curtis, I was like, I wonder what Imavov's going to do. Is he just going to stick and move just like Jacker Manson did? But he was able to get in. He was fucking Chris Curtis up. He was taking him down. He was having his way any which way. And if Imavov can go in there and get some good looks with the wrestling and then with the striking at distance as well, I think it's going to be a tough night for Jared Cannonier. I also think he wins by decision, Imavov that is. But if you have any strong lean either way, I mean, it's a close line fight. So if in your head it all makes sense that Jared Cannonier is going to beat him, shit, plus 102 is pretty good. And then, same with Imavov. If you think he's going to win minus 122, there's a lot of value on both sides. I think personally, it's gonna play better for Imavov for me just because that's who I'm, choosing to bet on. But I would like to see Jared Cannonier win as well. I just think Imavov is gonna mix it up and he's gonna, you know, create some problems for Jared Cannonier. I don't see
I
him
think
getting slept either.
I think, honestly, I think I think it'd be bad news if Imavov were to try to wrestle with Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier has good anti-wrestling, and he gets up when he does get taken down. We've seen that time and time again. Especially look at the Jack Hermanson fight. Jack Hermanson was deep on his hips, got him on literally hands clapped to his back. Jared Cannonier was able to ride those wrists, get hips heist above him, and was able to get out multiple times against Jared Cannonier. Or Jack Hermanson, I'm sorry. And I think Jack Hermanson's wrestling is higher level than Imavov's. And I think Imavov, that's a recipe for Jared Cannonier to take him live, actually. So if I see Imavov start to wrestle, especially in the first 2 rounds, and he's not wrestling successfully, I am going to take Jared Cannonier because that means he's going to be taxing his own gas tank. One thing
That's
I do know
true.
about Jared Cannonier, too, as well, is that he will not. He will take every route to conserve his gas tank. And he is someone that I have seen go 5 hard rounds, and we've seen him go 5 hard rounds multiple times. So if it does get into the later rounds, that is where I favor Cannonier, and I favor his power to carry late too as well, as we've seen against Marvin Vettori, as we see against Sean Strickland, and things of that nature too as well. So again, I do favor Imavov in this case, but the fact you brought up the wrestling, I thought was awesome to say because if I see Imavov start wrestling, especially if I see Cannonier get up even once, oh motherfucker. That hammer's coming out, motherfucker.
I just think he might have some success, man. And Imavov is just a bigger guy than Jack Hermanson, and I feel like he might be able to find his way to some trips. I'm not saying he.
His wrestling entries actually are not bad. Actually, I was really impressed with his wrestling entries on Chris Curtis. It was using his hands to his entries themselves, but Hermanson is one strong motherfucker, and I think Imavov is a Frenchman.
Yeah, that's true, but he's also not a Frenchman, though.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
he
in
is.
his blood.
He's a Russian. Yeah, you're right. He is a Russian.
That shit's in his blood, and he's tall, man. And I just think
Motherfucker's from Paris. Fuck that. He's a Frenchman.
if he does start causing issues, like if he has some success with the wrestling, and then he gets Jared Cannonier guessing, like if he controls him the whole round, okay, Jared Cannonier's like, fuck, man, I can't get taken down. Then you feint the wrestling, go back up to the striking. I just think it could be a rough night for Jared Cannonier. I'm rooting for him, but Imavov's a little fucker, man. He's pretty good. The
They're coming
Policia.
for me, dog.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
coming for me. I don't know, bro. That felt like a sign to me that Jared Cannonier's gonna win this shit by fucking murder. That just felt like, you know what? Everybody, I believe in signs. The Polizia right there, dog. It's gonna be a long fucking night for Imabov, dog. Bring out the
Hammer
fucking
it.
mops. Bring
Jared
out the
Cannonier by
mops.
knockout.
Yes, sir. Bring out the mops, baby. Nah, I'm excited for this card, man. I think it's good from a betting perspective. I had fun during this breakdown, man. I missed you last week, bro. Doing it by
Hell
myself
yeah,
was
dude.
fucking depressing as fuck.
I know.
to say the least. So even though we did this one late as hell, and we're both tired as hell. My apologies. My energy isn't to the level that it should be, but I hope we gave you guys at least a solid little breakdown here for you. I didn't get to tape as much as I wanted to this week, but next week I'm gonna fucking buzzsaw through the tape, and it'll be a far better breakdown.
Oh
Either
yeah.
way, I think we're gonna make a lot of money this week. I really do. We're fucking due for it, man. We are fucking due for it. Our picks have been doing good, but you know, we just haven't been able to put the recipe together yet. So.
Right. Hey, before we go, you got an underdog of the week and your lock of the week.
Underdog of the week. One sec, let me just pull up these. I usually see that's how you know my brain's not here because underdog of the week. It sucks because his odds aren't that crazy, but I'll take him by finish. Thiago Moises. Thiago Moises plus 105 is my underdog of the week. Him by finish is probably going to be far juicier odds. I'm assuming plus 225 for a double chance. I'm going to take Thiago Moises by finish, and I love that as my underdog of the week. If we're talking about my favorite play of the week, because I never use the term lock here, is Zach Reese. I think Zach Reese actually could be used it's hard to take an unproven guy like Zach Reese as your favorite fucking play of the week. God damn it. This card is just so good betting all the way across through. Yeah, I'm going to take Zach Reese. I think a guy that knows how to win, who's going to take all the pressure of his UFC first loss off of his back now versus a guy that's on the downslope of his career, old as hell, knows how to fumble a fucking bag. We're going to take Zach Reese, who's not only could be an underdog of the week, but he's also my favorite play of the week. Who's your dog and who's your favorite play of the week?
Dog of the week, Dom Reyes, baby. I want to say Charlie Radke, but I feel like he might get slept, and I feel like it's the same thing with
I don't feel.
Dominic Reyes. But I like Charlie Radke. I like. I'm gonna go Dominic Reyes for a dog of the week, and then if I had a favorite play, I'd have to say, I mean, Raul Rosas is pretty chalky, but maybe if I had a
I
favorite
don't think it
play,
is chalky though, man. The only thing that's chalky about it is the cardio issue. But come on, C. Rod drains everybody's fucking gas tank.
yeah, Raul Rosas is probably the most
Let's.
likely to win. If I had to pick most likely to win this week, probably Raul Rosas Jr. I think he's gonna cruise.
If I were to take just in terms of favorite plays of the week, like say a four-leg parlay together, which I just put together real quick on my phone. Tiago Moises, Zach Reese, Raul Rosas Jr. Got it that time, motherfucker. And Daniel Marcos, four legs at plus 1,062. So
Oh, yeah.
$100 wins you $1,000 and $1,062, and I really like that here. I think Daniel Marcos you're gonna get a really sweet line on him, and you're gonna be looking at the end of this week and be like, damn man, we could have hammered that shit at the even money that it was.
Wait,
Zach Reese,
did you say Raul Rosas?
Daniel Marcos, Zach Reese, and Tiago Moises. I
Hey,
feel I
hey,
feel really good about those four plays, bro.
let's lock it in, bro. That's
I
the
feel
one.
I
That's the
feel re-
ticket.
like see if y'all can see here. Look at that bad boy. Wait a minute, let me scroll.
That's the ticket this week, baby.
Hey, I personally love it, man. I personally love it. So let's do it. That's our CST lock of the week or our play of the week, baby. Let's
Let's
get it.
go.
Nick and
Fuck yeah.
Mike. Don't forget to give us a follow, y'all. You have me at Nick Saban, NICCSABAN. Don't forget to follow Combat Sports Today. Mike, don't forget to plug your Twitter before we get out of here.
It's Michael underscore AQUIN the number zero, Michael Aquino. And of course, always repping CST. Go give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and let us know what you think in the comments, y'all.
Hey, we appreciate you guys. I hope y'all have a great week, and more than anything, gamble safely. See y'all out the window.
Hell yeah.